Have you ever seen an entire old money real estate family, architects, developers, city planners, abandon their dying matriarch because she could no longer add value to their portfolio? That's exactly what I lived through 3 months ago. While my mother, Laura Vance, lay dying in a private wing of a hospital her own company built, my brother Ryan was 2 floors down, schmoozing investors for his next big deal. My sister Jessica was across town, finalizing a brutal eviction of a historic building's tenants. 22 family members, all titans of industry, and not a single one could spare an hour for the woman who handed them their empire. They didn't send flowers, just a sterile corporate memo of condolence, as if she were a retiring executive, already erased from the company letterhead. But here's what they didn't know. Mom had been planning for this moment for 15 years. The letter the nurse handed me as Mom took her last breath didn't just contain her final words. It contained the keys to the $1.36 billion empire they thought they controlled. Hi, I'm Amelia Vance, 32 years old, and today I'm sharing how my dying mother's secret letter turned me from the family failure into their worst nightmare. The Vance name is practically carved into the cornerstone of this city. For 3 generations we've built skylines. My grandfather was a brutalist architect who laid the foundation. My father expanded it into a development powerhouse. My brother Ryan, 40, was the golden son, the dealmaker whose face was on every business magazine. He could sell a condemned warehouse for millions with nothing more than a handshake and a charming smile. My sister Jessica, 36, was the enforcer, a ruthless corporate lawyer who handled the family's dirty work. She once said empathy was a liability in their line of work. Then there was me, the data analyst, the one who saw patterns in numbers, not in blueprints. In my family's eyes, my job as a lead strategist at a major tech firm was a cute little hobby. Anyone can play with spreadsheets, Amelia, Ryan would say. But can you raise a skyscraper from dust? The irony was, while they were building one tower at a time, I was designing predictive models that could forecast citywide real estate trends with 98% accuracy. But in the Vance family, if you didn't work with concrete and steel, you were invisible. A holiday dinner last year showed me exactly where I stood. During his toast, Ryan gestured to me and said, "To Amelia, who's proven that even in a family of builders, someone has to be the furniture." The room roared with laughter. Jessica added, "She's not furniture, Ryan. She's the abstract art on the wall that no one really understands." I just smiled, playing the role they gave me. What they didn't know was that 2 hours earlier, I'd closed a $9.2 billion IPO for my company. My bonus alone could have bought the restaurant we were in. But I kept quiet. In my family, tech money was imaginary, not earned through real grit. Uncle Kevin patted my shoulder. "Don't worry, dear. Not everyone can handle the pressure of the real world." For a decade, I was Vance Real Estate's unpaid data consultant, foolishly thinking my expertise could earn me a seat at their table. When their market analysis software failed in 2018, costing them a major bid, who did Ryan call at 3 a.m? Me. I spent 80 hours straight building them a custom analytics platform from scratch, an algorithm so powerful it predicted the next 3 gentrification hotspots and saved their portfolio from a market downturn. They made hundreds of millions. I didn't get a thank you, let alone a check. When Jessica needed to optimize their leasing contracts, I created a dynamic pricing model that increased their commercial revenue by 30%. "It's family helping family," Ryan would say whenever I hinted at compensation. "Consider it your contribution to something real." The equation was simple. Thousands of hours, millions in generated revenue, 0 recognition. That was my value on the Vance family ledger. Now their biggest deal ever was on the table, and it was a monster. Ryan was in the final stages of selling our entire portfolio of historic landmark properties to Omnicorp, a ruthless international conglomerate famous for demolition. They planned to tear down architectural treasures my mother had fought her whole life to preserve and replace them with soulless glass boxes. The price? A fire sale. But the catch was a $200 million personal facilitation fee for Ryan. 70 years of architectural legacy, built by my grandfather's vision and my mother's careful curation, about to be sold for Ryan's golden parachute. Mom's charity projects, the low-income housing she'd built into historic renovations, would be the first to go. Everything she stood for would be gutted for a quarterly earnings report. And I had the letter. Her handwriting was shaky, but the words were steel. My dearest Amelia, you are reading this because I am gone and you are probably alone. For 15 years, I watched you build worlds with data while your siblings played with bricks and mortar. I saw every dismissive comment, every ignored achievement. I saw it all. And I prepared. The key in this envelope opens a private vault. Inside, you'll find documents that prove you own 35% of this company. I've held it for you in a blind trust since the day you chose data science over architecture. They think Ryan's 20% gives him control. They are wrong. Don't show your hand until they try to destroy my legacy. Let them trap themselves in public. In the file, you'll see I've explained our secret language. Every building tells a story. Look for the folly of the flying buttress. It's the key. Remember what happened to your great-uncle when he betrayed the family's vision? This is why I had to do this. They worship at the altar of legacy. Make them kneel in their own church. All my love, Mom. The estate meeting was held in the main boardroom on the 50th floor, a room designed to intimidate. Ryan stood at the head of the long marble table, every inch the corporate king. Jessica was at his right hand, a polished weapon. Uncle Kevin and the rest of the old guard flanked them. You don't need to be here, Amelia, Ryan started, not even looking at me. Mom's final instructions said all family should be present, I said, holding up the letter. Mom was on a lot of medication, Jessica countered, her voice like chipping ice. Her judgment wasn't exactly clear. Morphine doesn't make you forget your own children, I replied, taking the only empty seat deliberately placed at the far end of the table like an afterthought. Ryan's jaw tightened. What could you possibly contribute to a discussion about architectural assets and billion-dollar contracts? I'm here to listen. Then listen from the lobby, he snapped. This is for stakeholders only. I'm family. Family. Ryan laughed, a cold, empty sound. For 15 years, what have you contributed? What buildings have you designed? What deals have you closed? The room fell silent, every pair of eyes fixed on me, waiting for my public execution. This was Ryan's boardroom and he was about to surgically remove me. Before I could answer, the family attorney, Daniel Park, a man loyal to my mother, cleared his throat. Mrs. Vance was quite specific. All named parties must be present. Ryan waved him off. Fine. Let her watch her siblings inherit the world she was too scared to be a part of. He then launched into a presentation about the Omnicorp deal, framing it as a triumph. As he spoke, Jessica stood up and pointedly closed the blinds behind me, casting my end of the table into shadow. The glare must be bothering those of us doing important work, she announced. Uncle Kevin actually turned his chair slightly, creating a physical barrier. The message was clear. I wasn't just an outsider. I was an obstacle. Then came the final, calculated blow. Ryan paused his presentation and walked down the table toward me, pulling out his personal checkbook. Let's settle this, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. $200,000. Gish. You sign an NDA, walk away, and never attend another family business meeting. That's more than generous, Jessica added. It's $200,000 more than you've earned. Take it and maintain some dignity, Ryan said, tearing off the check. Or stay and get nothing. Daniel can confirm, you're not a beneficiary of any real estate assets. Daniel Park nodded carefully. The primary assets are specifically designated, yes. Just as the humiliation was about to crush me, my phone rang. The timing was perfect. Jason Reed, my mentor, CEO of the tech firm I worked for. I answered on speaker. Jason, hi. Amelia, perfect. The board just approved the $9.2 billion IPO filing. Your signature is the last one we need. The valuation came in higher than expected, largely thanks to your predictive market models. The room went silent. Ryan's check lay forgotten on the table. The sound of $9.2 billion sucked the air out of the room. Ryan's face, usually a mask of confident charm, was a canvas of disbelief and fury. What is this? He scoffed, trying to regain control. Some kind of tech nerd theatrics? I'm sorry, who is that? Jason's voice sharpened on the speakerphone. Amelia, are you in a meeting? Family estate planning, I replied, my voice even. I'm with my brother, Ryan Vance. Ryan Vance, Jason repeated, and the name dripped with disdain. The one pushing that disastrous Omnicorp merger that would gut this city's architectural heritage? That Ryan Vance. Ryan's face went white. How did he? Amelia has been advising our venture capital wing on real estate sector disruptions, Jason continued, his voice booming from the phone. She predicted your exact move 6 months ago. Called it predictable old money greed. Her counter-strategy is why 3 major tech firms are about to flood the local market with smart building developments. By the way, Amelia, the board also approved your advisory shares. Another $10 million vested immediately. Jessica grabbed the edge of the table, her knuckles white. $10 million. Sorry, Jason, I'll have to call you back, I said, ending the call. Ryan laughed, but it was a brittle, hollow sound. Tech bubble money. It'll be gone in a year. Daniel Park, the attorney, cleared his throat, seizing the moment. Speaking of money that won't evaporate, he said, Mrs. Vance's final instructions stipulate that any major corporate restructuring, such as a merger, must be ratified at a formal shareholders' meeting. Not here. Ryan's arrogance returned. Fine. We'll make it public. A formality. He saw it as another stage for his coronation. The scene shifted to the grand ballroom of the city's most prestigious hotel. 200 attendees filled the room: shareholders, architects, real estate journalists, and city officials. Ryan had orchestrated it perfectly. Banners with the Vance logo hung from the ceiling. He took the stage in a $1,000 suit, a conquering hero. For generations, the Vance family has built this city's future, he began. And today we take the next step. A global partnership with Omnicorp that will secure our legacy for the next century. The room applauded politely. I sat in the back, a folder on my lap. He continued, gesturing to Jessica and his allies in the front row. The Vance family consists of dedicated real estate professionals. Builders. Visionaries. Of course. His eyes found me in the crowd. Not everyone followed the calling. Some chose easier paths. He was setting the stage for his final move. That is why, he announced, his voice booming, we are implementing a new corporate bylaw effective immediately. To preserve the integrity of our mission, only shareholders with a professional degree in architecture, urban planning, or corporate real estate law will hold voting shares going forward. A slide appeared on the screen behind him. It was a list of shareholders with one name, my name, crossed out in red. This was it. His public execution. A legal but morally bankrupt, criminal twist designed to strip me of any power and humiliate me into silence forever. As security guards started moving toward the aisle to block me, I stood up. 200 heads turned as I began to walk toward the stage, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Before any interruptions, Jessica said, grabbing a microphone, her smile sharp enough to cut glass, let's review the strategic benefits of this new bylaw. He was trying to bury me in corporate jargon. The audience shifted, uncomfortable. They knew a public shaming when they saw one. We're not being cruel, Ryan added, reclaiming the spotlight. We're being practical. Would you want someone who's never laid a foundation making decisions about a skyscraper? I reached the stage steps. 2 guards moved to block me, but Daniel Park appeared from a side door, followed by my mentor, Jason Reed, and 2 other people I recognized from my mother's list of allies. I believe Miss Vance has a statement to make, Daniel announced, his voice carrying a legal weight that made the guards hesitate. The audience leaned forward, phones out, recording. This was the moment. I stepped onto the stage and stood at the podium, flanked by my stunned and furious siblings. I have documentation regarding the ownership structure of Vance Real Estate, I said, my voice steady. Ryan laughed into his microphone. Everyone, my sister thinks she bought a share on an app. This is adorable. I opened my folder and pulled out the first document, holding it up. This is a certificate of ownership, filed with the SEC 15 years ago, notarized by Mr. Park's firm, and validated by the largest private bank in the country. Jessica stepped forward. That's impossible. I've seen all the ownership records. You've seen the public records, Daniel Park corrected from the side of the stage. Laura Vance maintained private trusts not required for disclosure until a triggering event. Triggering event? Ryan's confidence was finally cracking. I held the certificate for all to see, its official seals glinting under the stage lights. The triggering event was your attempt to sell her legacy for parts. As of this morning, I am the activated owner of 35% of this company. Silence. Complete stunned silence. Then Jason Reed stepped onto the stage. And since we're discussing qualifications, he said, his voice commanding the room, Let me tell you about the Amelia Vance her family chose to ignore. He projected his phone onto the main screen. It was a headline from a major financial journal. The architect of the digital skyline. How Amelia Vance's algorithms reshaped urban investment. Goldman Sachs called her the single most influential mind in predictive real estate analytics. Then I pulled out my mother's letter. But the most important voice here isn't mine. It's my mother's. I began to read her final words, exposing Ryan's $200 million side deal, the planned demolitions. And then the final devastating blow. My final directive, I read my mother's words echoing through the hall, is the legacy clause. Should any leadership attempt to dissolve the Architectural Preservation Trust, my majority shareholder is granted the sole authority to either assume full control of the company or to liquidate the entire $1.36 billion portfolio and donate the proceeds to architectural charities. The choice is hers. The power didn't just shift. Shattered. In the aftermath, I didn't hesitate. Motion to terminate the Omnicorp merger agreement, I said into the microphone, my voice ringing through the silent ballroom. As majority shareholder, I call for an immediate vote. Ryan finally found his voice. You can't just, according to corporate bylaws, Daniel Park interjected smoothly, any shareholder with over 30% can call an emergency vote. Miss Vance owns 35%. The board members, who had been Ryan's loyal soldiers moments before, exchanged nervous glances. One of them, an independent director my mother had trusted, stood up. I second the motion. The Omnicorp deal undervalues our historic assets by at least 40%. I've been saying it for months. All in favor? I asked. Hands went up. My 35%. The director's 10%. Institutional investors who smelled blood in the water. The vote was a landslide. Motion carries, Daniel announced. The Omnicorp merger is terminated. Ryan's face was a storm of fury. You just cost this family billions. No, I said calmly. I just cost you your $200 million commission. The one you were taking while selling out our mother's entire life's work. The SEC filing you signed has a clawback provision. You now personally owe the company $5 million in non-recoupable preparatory costs. Jessica gasped. Ryan, you said there was no risk. There wasn't, he sputtered, until I exercised my legal rights, I finished for him. Speaking of which, motion to remove Ryan Vance as CEO for breach of fiduciary duty. The vote was even faster this time. Motion carries, Daniel said. Ryan Vance is removed as CEO, effective immediately. The fallout was swift and brutal. Forbes ran a feature. The $200 million mistake. How arrogance toppled a real estate dynasty. The company's stock, which had stagnated under Ryan, jumped 22%, adding nearly $300 million in market value. The hypocrites came crawling back within hours. Uncle Kevin, who had physically turned his back on me, sent a text. Always knew you had it in you, Amelia. Let's have lunch and discuss your vision. I blocked his number. Jessica sent a desperate, rambling email about family loyalty. I forwarded it to my new assistant with one word. File. I established ironclad boundaries. All communication was to go through my attorney. No more family dinners. No more holidays. Their access to me was a privilege they had burned to the ground. In the final scenes of my old life, I sat in the CEO's office. My office, overlooking the city my family had built and nearly destroyed. As the new board chair, my first act was to fully fund my mother's Architectural Preservation Trust and announce a new initiative to build innovative, low-income housing. I found peace not in the revenge, but in finally getting to execute my mother's true vision. My worth was never about their approval. It was about my ability. The true inheritance wasn't the 35% stake. It was the freedom to build a legacy on my own terms. A legacy of integrity, innovation, and compassion. Something they never understood.